Bobby,
Hey.
Peter, welcome. How you good? How you doing, guys?
Good. Better now to see your beautiful face.
Oh, thank you, Bobby.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know Bobby, which is, some of you in my inner circle, but a lot of the inner circle does know Bobby. So Bobby will, started off as a client of mine, turned into an inspirational figure because of what I watched him do. Puts a lot of good out in the world, and as an investor, as an agent. So I just want to start there. So Peter's a new investor, got a couple doors. He's got some questions for you, but let's just start with your history, Bobby. Give me the nitty gritty from where you started to where you're at.
Oh man. Okay. Where I started was a course from the 80s by Carlton Sheets with like no money down. I mean, it was like straight up cassette tapes and me fumbling through them. And my dad handed me the course and was like, if you're going to buy a place, before you do, check this out. And like that was the thing, like the thing that changed the path, I guess. And then when he was talking, immediately he's like, listen, all these numbers are going to be way off from what you see today or whatever day that you're listening to this, but everything I'm telling you is going to stay true forever. And I believed him. So after listening to all those, I just started to implement some of the ideas. One of the biggest, and I think that I felt like was the most profound idea, was surround yourself with like-minded people. Make sure that your realtor is an investor. Make sure your lender is an investor. Your accountant is an investor. Your friends are investors. Because it'll just help you not make a lot of the mistakes that people tend to do, because you're going to learn from them. So you're able to grab from that pool.
I love that.
So that's kind of how I started. Was like the first property. And with that being said, I also immediately was like labeling myself as an investor before I even owned anything, which is kind of funny, because you realize like, it's like, what's the rules behind that? Like, how do you say like, I'm an investor? Like, do you get to own 2? Do you get to own 1? Can you own 0 and be an investor? So I believe in the whole affirmation idea. So I was immediately just like, I'm an investor, and people were like, well, what are you investing in? What are you looking for? And what I was looking for was areas where it's 25% flipped, which is another idea that stays true today. You can ride the inflation game. I'm sorry, not inflation. Right there, I don't mean by inflation. I meant, what do you call it? Like it's that it'll go up in value. Where's the wow?
Yeah, the appreciation game.
The appreciation. Yeah. I need the wow. Like wow.
So 20. Yeah. Yes, we've got sound effects, everybody. Yeah. So tell me this 25% flipped concept.
Yeah. So if you're going to look like for a property, like you can study an area by looking up the rentals that are in the area first, and you could see how many of those have been remodeled. You can also drive through there, see how many have been scraped. You can look up ones for sale, see how many have been flipped or are kind of being sold as is. So if you notice a trend where it's around this 25% that have been scraped or flipped, then you know that area is going to do well. And then I'll check kind of amenities nearby, parks, Starbucks, that kind of thing. And I think that's traditionally what a lot of people do. So one of the areas that I did was University Hills. And now everybody goes, well, oh yeah. But 2012, that wasn't like, oh yeah, necessarily. Like you had these Cracker Jack box houses right next to these, huge scrapes that were like, over, at that point they were in the 800s or 700s, but it still made to a lot of people didn't make financial sense why I was paying so much for this tiny, tiny house that the area just didn't look like it supported at the moment, but it fit my rules of that 25%. So that was like the first investment, even though it was my primary. And then it did really well. Yeah.
I like that. I haven't heard of that 25% flipped rule. I dig that.
And that's like
if you are buying a primary, that's an investment.
It's an investment. Yep. And then, and if you can't provide the cash flow from it, it's like, you you take the appreciation aspect of it, and I'm not going to say anything is guaranteed, but that 25% is a pretty damn good number. To where you can still ride that, appreciation train.
Can I ask a question about that?
Please.
Are you looking to be, 25% is like the target. If it's more than 25%, does that start to negatively impact how you would, or is it if it's less, is it like, which way are you looking at that trend going? Like, are you trying to
so if it's less than
adapter?
that, it can be like a longer time for you to see anything in that area. I mean, Of course, there's so many other factors. If it's way more than that, then it'll still you'll still do well, but I would say it has more to do with like buying a fixer, doing the sweat equity, doing the forced appreciation approach. And then you're able to kind of ride that with everyone as they're all fixing up their places around you, versus you just kind of matching what's already existing. I'm not saying that it's, I've seen both do well.
Okay.
But it was almost like this kind of thing where you knew your money was protected, I guess, as long as it was almost more of a minimum of that 25, and then below that was a little bit riskier.
Yeah, because it might never pick up if it's less than 25.
Yeah, and then after that, I feel like it's nice because then you're looking at comps, and then you're able to see, okay, what did this guy do? How much is it worth? What will I get rewarded for? And not remodeling past what your neighbor's doing.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And so you went from, buying a primary to buying a rental to, dare I say, mastering some of these niches like Section 8 tenants. You're in sober living. And so you found these really good niches that I think is inspiring, because you found really good ways to be of service and make money at the same time. So you're building a win stack, right? A lot of your deals is win, 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 especially when, you're serving, underserved folks. You also have worked with investors, right? Where you've partnered with investors. Let me pivot a little to that. So you've done,
Awesome.
You've raised some money and you've done partnership deals. Can you tell me about some of those deals and how those have gone, and who were your investors? Give me the lowdown on some of those.
Okay. So, I want to say this really fast. And just that I had a proven concept before I gambled anybody's money. So it was like, I created what I thought was, yes, this is for sure. And then once I created that, then I had this little micro portfolio that was performing really well, proven strategies. And then I was able to show that to the investors to then create the syndication. So and I feel like everybody's trying to jump to Z, where, it's like, maybe try to take care of A, B, and C first. And it's okay to kind of walk a little bit there.
Totally agree. I love that. I just want to stop because I've seen this. I started syndicating multifamily deals about a decade ago, and I didn't even know what syndication meant, right? It was just, hey, I got to get this deal done, and I don't have the credit or the cash to get it done. So if I bring in people that have cash and credit and believe in what I'm articulating and believe that I can execute, then I can get it done. And luckily for me, I had some people that did believe in me. And what's cool about what you did is you took these concepts, right? I was your lender on some of these early deals, and you did it. And then people go, Bobby, what are you doing? And your friends are like, I want to do that. And then you almost started syndicating because people were asking you. You didn't go hunting. Is that a fair statement? Okay, so I'll stop telling your story.
That is what happened. I was sharing with everybody. I was really proud of it, and I also thought the stories were crazy. Like showing up to a place and just the mildew, mold, and having to kids like sleeping on the ground floor, and the ground floor was like water had come in, and it was bad. Like a lot of it was bad, and I got to do fun shit like delivering new beds and helping them and putting them in a safe environment. So it was really cool. So when you combine like that layer of story, a lot of people are like, well, how do I get involved? And at that time I wasn't a realtor. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, like maybe we could, partner on stuff. And then I started realizing there's a lot of people that may have money in a savings, or they just have money sitting there, but they don't necessarily have income. And my whole goal as I was an investor, during the acquisition phase of things, that I was really doing everything I can to protect my gross income, which put me at this really great place as acting as a guarantor, as acting as a person with great credit. And then they would bring in the money and they didn't have to really worry about anything else. And then I would, create this situation. So my first, trying to think, like the first syndication, I think, would be a duplex. And one thing that, and there wasn't like this magic, here's what to do and here's the step to take for syndication. You could literally grab 20 different people that have created partnerships and they structured it 20 different ways, which is enough to hurt your head. And my one thing, and I tell everybody this, is like the right option is the one where you actually do something. Like that's it. Like just do something and you'll be able to clean up the piece as long as you still surround yourself with investors. But with that duplex scenario, she had the money, she didn't have any income, and but she did have the down payment. So what I did was I established an LLC, I created the partnership agreement, and then I let the funds season in an account, so that I can use that money as my money. So we did the 3-month rule. Learning now, I didn't necessarily have to take those steps, but it helps because, you never know what opportunity is going to be in front of you. So let's say if it was a hard money deal, then that's no problem. They don't care where that money just came from. You could, literally, I bought a house with a credit card. Like they really don't care. And so, but what I was, in my mind, the way I thought about it is it will open up so many more opportunities if I can just purchase with a conventional, and if it makes it so like it is just my money, I'm not dependent on her credit, I'm not dependent on her at all, and that I let those funds season. So that was like my thought process behind that, was like, get the funds, let the funds sit. The next thing was like structuring the deal. What I'm going to tell everybody now, I know I'm going to get judged for it. It's okay. Like it's all good. But I've always had this, abundant mindset. Like, how much more money can I make for other people? And in the end, I will also get taken care of at some point. And if I don't, well, they're better off, and maybe they buy me a steak someday. That was literally my mindset towards it. So the number one thing I did was I say, for every dollar that you put into this, I'm going to give you 10% on your money. And so I did that. Then I said, on top of that, if and when it appreciates, we'll split that 50-50. Right? Do the math on that. They made out like fucking bandits. Because this was years back, and, and so all the properties appreciated. They got their 10%, once a month, like clockwork. At the time, I'll be honest, I didn't have like a big reserves to cover costs of anything. And it wasn't until later that I just kind of, I'm not really taking cash flow for myself and building up reserves in case anything does happen, so that I'm not having to borrow any more money from them. I feel like once the deal is closed, it's like doesn't give everybody a warm and fuzzy if you're going back, knocking on the door, asking for money. In retrospect, I've heard of other people creating this syndication where they had them put about 6 months or 10,000. It could be a specific number as reserves as a part of the borrowing, so then they don't have to go knocking back on the door for that money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we call that a capital call, and nobody likes, ringing investors and doing a capital call, and no investors like being capital called. So the fact that you didn't have to do that, even without reserves, is good. I mean, listen, you stumble and bumble your way forward, and if you do right by people and make them money, there's no issues. But where you get in trouble is where you get upside down, you lose money and all that. And you executed, right? At the end of the day, you executed. I love the fact that you have taken this perspective even before you were an investor, even before you had executed a deal, you said, I'm an investor, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a law of the universe. act as if, it's
Mhm.
it's done and you are case in point.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool, wild ascension that I got to watch.
Yeah.
It was just wild, and it
Yeah.
was fun.
I think I scared the I mean, you said fun, and I will tell you, I also scared the shit out of you,
You did.
and,
You did.
many others. Like I think coming out of the gate, everybody could tell I was like a very scary cannon. Just like point me wherever, and I was consuming all the courses and the content, everything else, and I feel like that was a piece that a lot of people didn't know, like, is that how much studying I was doing on top of it. So it was like I got it, and then when I did the Section 8 thing, I was like, I really got it. It just, yeah, it all really clicked.
Well, yeah, and you don't see. Listen, you're a unique soul, man. You are brave, and your
Mhm.
bravery, yeah, was a little scary. You were so brave that the analytical, conservative lender in me was like, oh, okay, like this has to go well, right? And
Yeah.
it did go well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we could sidestep here for a second, because you've just
Sure.
been, you did it on your own. You've done it with investors. You did
Mhm.
all this stuff, what I watched you do without being an agent, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Bobby, you got to be an agent or a lender you got to get
No,
in
I
this
know.
game, right? You got
Everybody
to.
kept telling me that, and I was like, no way. I thought like this is gonna sound so funny, but the idea of it intimidated the shit out of me because I was like, realtors, like, it's like they have all this knowledge I'll never know. Like I thought like they I don't know how to explain that, but it's like I always looked up to them quite a bit because I always surrounded myself with such great realtors. And I'm thankful that I did wait, to be honest, because I was able to learn a lot, both good and bad, you know.
Isn't it cool? I find it really cool to know that somebody can show such bravery in a certain direction and then still acknowledge, hey, I was scared about this thing, right?
Oh yeah.
And we
Mhm.
got, so one thing about Peter is he's a black belt in jujitsu
Oh, that's
and
cool.
an MMA fighter. Like he got in a cage where the other guy wanted to hurt him,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
he's self-aware to go, dude, I don't know this. This makes me nervous, and I'm like, this makes you nervous? You got in a
Yeah.
cage, right? I mean, but so he's one of the toughest guys I know, and guess what?
Yeah.
Even the toughest guys I know get scared about a certain direction, right? And to see the
Yeah.
bravery that you had in this direction, and then was scared to get a a realtor license. I mean, professor, and when Peter is my black belt jujitsu instructor, so we call him Professor.
Oh,
Professor,
that's
what do you
awesome.
think about
Yeah.
this bravery thing? And I know you agree that nature loves courage.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. This is so fun to just listen to your story, and I'm really inspired by it. So thank you for sharing. But
Yeah.
I really I love coming like the two things that you said that really have stuck out the most is one, like, really believing it before it's true, like believing it into existence and
Uh-huh.
calling yourself an investor. And Chris's whole thing, his whole shtick is capital. And there's so many different ways to define capital that it doesn't just have to be money. And I believe that investment is,
Mm,
you know what I mean? Like you've been
totally.
investing in yourself and investing in time and energy and
Mhm.
all that way before you had, like, we happen to be talking about real estate, but that's not the only place you can invest. And so I just think that's really a keen insight that you were like, aware of early on. And I think that there's no doubt in my mind that that was one of the things that led to your success, is that you were already acting as if you were that guy. Now you're just
Mhm.
applying it to this new venture of real estate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been like, how can I add value to your life? Like
Well,
that's it, and
dude, and the second thing you said that I think is amazing, and I mean, if people have critical things to say about it,
Mhm.
that says a lot more about them than you. And that was just that what you're talking about, acting in this kind of infinite mindset and from abundance, where you're trying to help everybody around you, and like the rising tide lifts all ships type mentality. I think
Yeah.
that's such a better way to approach things. You're going to feel a lot better about yourself and people
Mhm.
around you. And Chris and I were talking about this earlier, maybe I don't know, last week, and about like the difference between building your resume and building your eulogy. You know, like when you're acting in a way that people are really going to talk about you, like, man, this guy really helped me out. We did some cool deals together and all that. But like the way I felt when I was working with him was totally different from a lot of these people where I don't trust, you know, like I don't trust them as far as I can throw them.
Yeah.
And they're going to turn around and stab me in the back as soon as I look away. So I just think that's exactly the type of a role model, you know, if I can use that term, that I'm looking for. Like, that's exactly how I want to play the game too, is really approaching from like that. So I really appreciate everything you've shared so far. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm excited for you. Like, I love that. What I learned later is like how passionate I am about working with the newer investors. I think it's such a cool thing because most won't do it, you know, and, you know, before we started, I said, welcome to the 16% club, right? You know, cause it's really like only 16% get to own a rental. Like, that's it. It's such a small number. And then of that 16%, I think it's they own an average of like 1.8 houses. So they don't even get to more than 2 rentals.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and I mean, so when you think about that, you're just like, whoa. So let's say you get to 3. I mean, you're really low percentage, you know, it just really changed your trajectory. But like, what moves are made and when are so detrimental at this point in the game. Like, in the beginning, being even more conservative about acquisition makes such a big difference to build like the financial foundation on the monthly, your monthly DTI makes all the difference. It's the difference between going from, 1 property to 10 properties or going from 1 and staying at 1.
Okay. Yeah.
And then as you kind of, the one thing I will say is that as kind of the investors graduate, they ride this, the appreciation train, and then they'll graduate into something that maybe is like less stress, less management, less, so it's like, brand new, or it's a townhome, brand new, really low cap rates, but zero headache,
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I think it's important not to do that. Take on the headache, take on the sweat, be working until 2 a.m. on that floor because you can't afford the contractor,
there's great value in, you got to earn your stripes, right?
Totally.
And so Peter's earning his stripes. He's got 2 doors. And so let's tackle that, because I know Peter's got to hop off in a few minutes here.
Okay.
What are the opportunities for smaller investors in 2024? Is it Airbnb? Is it short-term? Is it room by room? What are you seeing? Because you're very good at finding specific niches, and then you're brave enough to ferociously attack those niches, without hesitation. So give us your niches, Bobby. What are you thinking?
So number one, I think the niche that I've always focused on is just where development has been headed, which you see it's like not headed anywhere. It's gross. We don't have enough houses, and not enough are being built. And it's either they're building these $1 million things, or they're building 1-bedroom townhomes and row homes. Everything's like squished and catering to, I would say, younger people without kids, or it might be you have 1 kid. So you'll see like a studio to 2-bedroom. So one thing that I focused on, and it's remained true, is kind of focusing a little bit more on 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, things that are a little bit bigger, where I don't see as much development happening, because I felt like my value would always stay strong with those. That being said, short-term rentals, somewhat saturated, and it's caused a lot of them to suffer. In general, like, you need to be the diamond when people are looking at pictures and such. Like, you need to be the thing that sticks out with color, finished work. Like, you can't get away with just doing all your gray and whites. I mean, you have to offer a lot of fun amenities, games, hot tub, that type of thing. Like, you got to be cool. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, be really cool and in a great location. And if you're, trying to do like a studio 1 and 2, just expect lower numbers. And guess what? Everybody and their mother is trying to do studio 1 and 2 because that's what they can afford. So if you're going to do it, try to find somebody that's been able to create high returns in that short-term rental world, find out how they did it. And I would definitely focus on things that everybody's not doing, which is a little bit bigger. And then the Section 8 world, what I do is I kind of keep a pulse on Section 8 on specifically voucher holders. It's kind of like watching a stock or something go up and down. And when I started, I would say there was it's like around 185 vouchers looking for a place in Denver. So they have a Denver voucher looking for a place in Denver County. There's around 184. I went and, I kind of keep an eye on that. And today there was 360 looking. And to be honest, I was like, holy shit, that was a much higher number than I was expecting. And I don't know if it's because we have a lot more coming in, from South America. To be honest, I don't exactly know why that's happening. And it also could be because a lot of people have done the Section 8 game, but in my mind, they don't do it the right way. And they take away amenities. So the more amenities that you take away, it's going to take away at the tenant that you get to put in there. And the tenant that is in there is not going to be happy. So all those people could be looking simply because they got pinched out of a nice, single family home or like half of a duplex. And then they settled on a condo where it's like somebody's above them, somebody's below them. They got no parking, all those things. And they're trying to find a new place. So or maybe it's like a combo of all of that. So long story short, with the Section 8 world, I am seeing a huge need for it right now. And I'm definitely, I'm probably going to be moving on some properties here, with some investors because of it. And then the sober living is, it's been very difficult. I'm going to be honest, because the prices of the homes have gone up so much. They are still a lot of them are still making minimum wage. The sober living homes that I work with or that I help create, they're not in clinic. They're past clinics. Like they're good. They're in good standing. They're not like in recovery or anything. And well, obviously like they're always in recovery, but they're not still in clinics. Like they're in a place where they're able to get a job, but a lot of those jobs don't necessarily pay amazing. And so the cap rates for that, I can, not to throw like too many numbers, but are around like 6 and 7. So it's not horrible. It's what people are used to in Colorado. It's not what I'm used to. It's not what I like. And it's not what I like to produce. But it's still amazing because you're helping them. So for my bleeding heart investors, like, yo, if you're okay with, a 7 cap, like, it's great. And also, I feel like a lot of kind of wannabes are trying to jump into it a little bit, and that I wouldn't say is great. Like we're talking about failing houses and then saturated areas. So, it's one of those same things with you're going to hear me say the word amenities all the time, right? It's like, but yeah. So just think about how many amenities that you can offer to them. So close to jobs, you got parking. If it's, if you have 7 to 8 people in there, make sure you have 3 to 4 bathrooms, so it's like, you got a better deal on that 2-bathroom place, but now they're suffering and now you have a failing house,
Yeah. Let me ask you about that saturation. And did you see how I just changed the view?
I did. Yeah.
It is to me. How do you know if a neighborhood's saturated with assisted living or sober living?
They'll know a lot. So I work
Companies will know?
Yeah. So I work with like a few different organizations, and then I'll just simply ask them, are any other organizations opening up in your area? And
Okay.
they'll know. They have like a pulse on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep.
Is
the other thing too is like sometimes they'll be working with multiple investors, and they will try to create a lot of houses in one area. So I'll just simply ask, do you have any other houses that are opening up in this area? Like, really simple question. If my answer is, one other house, two other houses, like, awesome. And then I'll also ask, is that going to be a guy's house? Is that going to be, a women's house? To also avoid the saturation. If I hear 4 are opening, like, red flags,
Yeah. So go ahead, Peter.
I was just going to ask, what are you talking about as far as like the radius? Like how big of an area does that usually, because saturation is an interesting concept to me.
Yeah. So I would say like within 2 miles.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like 2-3 miles, somewhere in there.
And is the nature of that because you have this group of folks who are in recovery and they need, they're out of clinic and they need a minimum wage job and they need to be able to walk to that job because they have a DUI or so, whatever it is? Is that the deal?
That is a part of it. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And or, so it's like bus routes are also really important. But if you could do walking even better, you just think like the more opportunity you can give them to succeed, the better. Like, and that involves like having 2 living spaces so they're not fighting. That there's parking right across the street so that you're not affecting the neighbors. You're not in a cul-de-sac where, where you're just like on top of other people, is sometimes not the best.
Yeah, I remember they were doing a halfway house in a neighborhood I'm familiar with and know some people that live there, and they were hooting and hollering, "Hey, we don't want this halfway house in our neighborhood." And they weren't able to stop it, and they got the halfway house in their neighborhood. And I asked them, a year later, 2 years later, and they're like, "Oh, it's just as quiet as can be. There's no issues. We never see them. If they're outside, they're in the backyard." It was just it was surprising that it wasn't an issue.
Yeah. And that's the difference between somebody saying, I have an idea and I want to start this up by myself, and you working with an organization and, all the different rules to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, even with them, it's like, I'll still go out because I know what it's like to create successful houses. And I also know what not successful houses look like,
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I'm truly deep down trying to protect them and then also protect the investor. Like, I want the house to succeed for them. Like, I want their, everybody to have these amazing changed lives and support them. And I feel like it, by doing it the right way, by not having them hang out in the front, and that when it snows, you'll see them too. Like, they'll go and shovel all their neighbors. Like, they want not just the sidewalk, I mean, they're doing like your driveway. You're going to like having them. And the other thing is, if you were to just walk into the house, all the chores are split up between each member. And you walk into the house and you'll see all the cups sometimes are just like all in a row. Like, everything's all stacked. It's going to be better than if I were to walk into your house and start opening up cabinets. Like, it's
that's
unlike,
guaranteed.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, the beds are made like, it's going to be such a different situation because we all know that we thrive in organization. It's like the cluttered house, cluttered mind. So they really adopt that and put that into play as well. Yeah. So.
Gotcha. That's okay. So let's take a look at Peter here. Peter's got 2 doors, right?
Cool. Mm-hmm.
What should he do this year?
I don't know about the 2 doors. so start there. Tell me really quick. What's going on with your 2 doors, and are either of them your primary?
Yeah, one is a primary. So I had a half of a duplex in Denver that I lived at for about 8 years.
Okay.
And then
and so you own half of it, or you own the whole thing?
I own one half of it.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
No HOA, right?
No HOA.
Okay, and that's in Denver?
Yep.
Denver proper?
Like Denver proper. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I lived there for about 8 years. I bought it, when my grandma passed, I used some of the money that she gave. That's how I was able to get that house. So I lived there as a single guy. I got married last year. And so my wife is in the military. We have a VA loan. So, she and I were able to combine our income, use the VA loan to buy a house. Now we live in Parker. So We live in our primary in Parker, and then we have been renting out this 2-bed, 2-bath, townhome in Denver. It's been renting since July, so it's new. Chris was kind of helping me knock
So
all this out last
tell me
year.
about that part. I'm confused. Like, so you moved into that place and you're renting it? And
No, I
renting your
moved
girlfriend's?
out of the house in Denver. Now I live in Parker, and now
Now you
I'm
live-
renting the one that I used to live in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Okay, now tell me, have you already done like the portfolio analysis? You probably did, right? Like
No.
with
Well,
you didn't do property llama? Okay.
No, we've done it. Peter and I have done it together. So he's got one door that's just humming, and he's got a primary. And the door that's humming, cash flow is great. He's managing it himself.
Okay, cool.
He's doing all the fixes.
Okay, cool.
And so looking to expand, what's a guy like him do to expand? Now that he's got the foundation, right? And just Bobby knows this, and I think everybody knows this. Just to say this, in my humble opinion, as a standard investment portfolio, everybody should at minimum own 2 houses. One they live in and one they rent, right?
Okay.
That's your bare minimum. If you don't want to be a real estate investor at all, well, you still have to do that. Right? I'm have to, but you know what I'm saying. So, but Peter's got the bug. He's been hanging out with me a little too much. And so here we are, Bobby. So what do you think?
Okay. So number one, I see this a lot, and well, number one, just congrats. Like, I think it's incredible. Like you did it, you're at 2, like it's, and then my other like number 2 thing is, it also sounds like you jumped into primaries without looking at what the property could actually produce. And so and I say that because like a lot of people will do that, where they're going to do this like kind of primary hopping, but you're not purchasing based on the production of the rent of your. So in the future, like you'll see, you're going to do even better because you're going to work backwards, where you're going to like you run pro forma on each property before you purchase it. And then, and as far as like, if I was in your shoes, I don't know, do you have access to equity at the moment?
So I'll try to explain what I know, and then you can ask clarifying question. But just to respond to the other comment about like hopping for primaries, my wife and I, we just got married. Our plan is to start a family, so we're probably not looking to move again. So this purchase that we made last year was really we're going to stay here and build. This is our home. Okay. My dad owns the Denver house outright, and I pay him a 0 interest loan back. So technically, like I own the entire property, but even with the loan repayment plus the taxes and insurance, it's still cash flowing really well. Okay. So I'm looking to just continue to pay that back, but there's no real urgency for that, and I have the equity of that entire house now, in 2024.
Is it okay? And then okay, so if your name's not on it, then you're not technically able to grab equity from, or your name is on it.
My name is on it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So would he be okay with
the lender? His dad's the lender. That's
okay. Are you able to borrow money from your dad? Let me start there.
Yeah,
you can. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Yeah.
And then have you created a business? I mean, like, do you have a partnership that's written up with your dad?
No. Like for this loan?
Huh? For all of it. For all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have an agreement for the repayment of the.
Okay, cool. Okay, no, that's good. Yeah, I didn't understand the question. Yeah, the most like, and this is just like a good thing for me to jump into just for 2 seconds, is that your best partnership is the one that's planned around your exit strategy.
Okay.
Like, plan what it's going to look like when shit hits the fan. Like, it's tanking. We got to get rid of it. What are we going to do? How does that look? What's the agreement in place? Make no assumptions.
Okay.
And if you can get everybody on board with what does that look like at the exit, and everybody's in agreement, then work backwards from there. And then you'll have successful partnerships, even with family, especially with family.
Okay.
All right. Now
if I can interrupt, Bobby, just for a second. So Peter and I were talking about the hierarchy of loans, right?
Yeah.
And you've used all sorts of loans, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I've originated plenty of those for you, and
I
you've
was
gone
just getting into
private.
that. Yeah.
So Peter has got prime level 1, family loan, right? So it's his deal, but the loan
Okay,
is the
cool.
family. So he's got that, and then he's got prime. In terms of the hierarchy, the cheapest money available. He's got the cheapest money available in a
Yeah.
loan with his family, and
Okay.
then they've got a VA loan, which is another really good,
Yeah.
inexpensive loan.
It's
And
beautiful. Mhm.
as he ascends, he understands that, just like you and I've talked about, we've done FHA, conventional, hard money, everything in between. But as he ascends, well, maybe the next deal, if he buys a rental on his own or with a partner, it might just be conventional, or
It
it
might be
might be hard
conventional.
money, but not
Exactly.
everything is going to be as sweet as that family loan. And then
Yep.
certainly not everything's going to be as sweet as that VA loan. But so he's starting to really see the whole scope of his capital stack, which is what I think you're alluding to. So
Yeah.
is that the direction you're going? Could you speak on that,
Exactly.
Bobby?
Yeah, yeah. That's why I was like, paint me the whole picture.
Yeah.
Like I needed to see the whole picture. I can't like, hey, go do this, because that answer is so different for everybody. It's so different.
Yeah, think 2
Now,
doors, one
yeah.
private loan,
So okay,
one
cool.
VA loan. That's
So
where he's going.
okay, cool. So with your dad, number one, I would just find out like how much money do you actually have access to, and how much money are you still allowed to borrow, and is there an availability for a HELOC? Now, I don't even care if you use that HELOC, and the best time to open a HELOC is when you don't need it. So if you don't have a HELOC open, if there is funds available on either property, just get it open for the rainy day, which can act as reserves. So I love to do that as kind of like a step one, get it in place. Step two, I would then like see if you can work an arrangement where maybe your dad is financially benefiting from you borrowing money, because which is great. The more money you're able to give him or pay him, on it, the more money he's going to want to help you out with, and everybody wins. So depending on that answer, it will basically go to my next answer. If you're looking at doing a conventional, you could do, and if you're getting into the multi-unit, you're looking at 25% down, all the way down to 10 and 15% down, depending on the hard money as well, but viewing that as a bridge. Now, the hard money is amazing for doing less money down, but you have to find something that you can add more value. It has to be that situation to create your exit strategy for the conventional. Yes, there's a lot of risk with that, but yes, you can create a lot of wealth. Like you can do that forced appreciation idea by rehabbing a place and doing the 10% down. I like to be around the 70% ARV. Are you familiar with the ARV? Like that acronym? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So it's just
After rehab value.
After rehab value. Okay. So after you fix it up, what's it worth? And then you just take that number and you go 70% of it. And that's what your acquisition. Now, if you're getting it lower than that 70%, you can also look at the repair and deduct that repair amount from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, cool. Okay. So that's about as simple as I can make that. So if it's, whatever, $100,000 purchase, or I'm sorry, if it's worth $100,000 when you're done, you're trying to purchase it for $70,000. It needs 10,000. You're now trying to get it for 60,000.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
And then you're going to create the value by then fixing it up. The other thing I would do is look into the rehab loans with hard money as well. That was one thing you're like, what is something that you would do differently that now? That's my answer. Okay. Is being able to do the itemization, let the hard money fund the rehab so that I'm not so out of pocket post close. Dropping 40,000 right after you close, it's a bad time. But doing 10% of the $40,000, hey, I could do that. That's a lot happier place.
And Bobby, let me interrupt. So we did a podcast I did a podcast and Peter edited it with my buddy Nick. So Nick, that loan with Nick, I lent them 100% of the purchase price and half of the rehab value. Now, I'm
Awesome.
not doing that with everybody, right? Those kind of loans aren't available for everybody. But if you have a good relationship, like you do with a hard money lender, me,
Yeah.
well, and if I know the deal and I know you're good for it and all that, and I understand the asset and I'm comfortable with it, well, then I will, with people in the inner circle like Bobby, like you, I will lend 100% of the acquisition cost and 50% of the rehab cost. Now, if you start banging those out, right, and you're doing that over and over and over and performing, I might just lend you 100% of the acquisition cost and 100% of the rehab cost, right? But this is hard money, right? It's in the double digits. So, you're in and you're out, and you're out as either a sale or you're out as a refi. And to Bobby's point, if that refi is 70% loan to value, well, that's an easy refi to do, right? Whether it's a DSCR loan to take it down or it's a full conventional loan. So that's one of those where you can get these deals done with no money down, right? But usually those are earned with relationships with hard money lenders. Like, you're not just going to go to ABC hard money lender and they're going to do that for you if it's your first one, right?
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt, Bobby.
No, thank you for that. No, I love everything you just said. I think that, and also I didn't know that. That's incredible. Like, no money down. It's cool. Like, I did it 3 times, and like just through the partnerships, and everybody jokes about it. And it's like, no money down. Haha, you too, but it's true. Like, you really can do it. It takes some phone calls, but it's very available.
You got to be creative. And to Bobby's point, you got to have real relationships, right? And so with my lending practice, as I've, as my hair grays, my lending practice refines, right? And since I've been doing more hard money lending, more private lending, specifically with people that I've known for a decade, right? That I've done deals with, who I've seen under pressure. That's the other thing. When you partner with people, I like to partner with people who I've seen go into the fire, right? And I've seen Bobby go into the fire, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we train jujitsu. I mean, there's no pressure like a black belt being on your back trying to choke the crap out of you. So if you can stay calm in these situations, you can stay calm doing a flip, right? You can stay calm being a real estate investor, right? And for you, Professor, the fact that you can, you used to get locked in a cage with another man, with the intention of beating your face in. I mean, this is like child's play to you, right?
It's easy.
So anyway, that's my take on that. Bobby, what were, I know, keep interrupting you. Keep going, bud.
No, you're good. You're good. So the one thing I will tell you that I always have poor man projection. So I apologize for that. It's something that I will always do. But I walk into like working with anybody like, you just lost your job, because I was like the poor dude. I was making, 38,000 a year, and I was like underwater. Like, it was bad. Right. So I always project that on people and try to also protect them at the same time. So before you even move on anything, like, look what that you'll see me going back to that again, though, of like, how many exit strategies do you have? And the more you have, the better. So looking at your DTI and also recognizing whatever rent you're going to create, you're able to, use 75% of that will just help protect you. So, and that's where like the whole pro forma comes in. But you got to make sure you're also conservative with it. And as you move forward, you'll find, and this is something that I learned because I was just like, they're like, oh, you can't buy anymore. You're maxed out. My DTI was like done. It was impossible for me to qualify. And so doing the hard money bridge, you're able to establish those rents. You're able to create this higher gross income with 75% to allow you the extra strategy into the conventional. So don't let the DTI deter you at first, but then find out what your numbers need to be so that you can create more exit strategies. And even with your dad, like, would he be open to be on any loans? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know that answer. I don't know what his DTI looks like. But even with like your wife, like, where's her income? How many properties do you want? Do you want to exceed 10? Like, do you want to each have 10? What's your goal there? I don't have that answer for you.
Well,
So
I'll
yeah,
jump in with that now that you mentioned the wife thing. You know,
yeah,
the joke as a musician back in the music days is, what's the definition of a successful musician? A wife with 2 jobs. So,
yeah. Yeah.
so you
That's
know,
funny.
wife can always get a second job, Peter. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
No, the but that's a great point. You know, some people will stumble into a meeting with a lender and they'll go, "Nope, you can't afford to buy a rental property." And that's the end of the conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that is the end of the conversation, my humble suggestion is you find a different lender, because there's
Yeah.
always a way to get there. Partnerships, hard money, creative finance, sub 2, the list goes on and on and on. And
Mhm.
even if you're, even if you have to be a wholesaler, if you have to be an agent, if you, we had the great Alex Saldana on last week, Bobby. I don't know if you know Alex. But I'm lending him some money for a flip he's doing in Aurora, and he had 3 exit strategies, right? Tiered exits.
Mhm.
And boy, it sure does make you feel safe when the borrower is presenting you a spreadsheet where I can check the math on
Mhm.
3 legitimate exits, right?
Yep. Yeah. That's
And
it.
the
Like,
yep. So the exit of a wholesale, the exit of a buy and hold, the exit of a flip, the exit of a flip with a bunch of seller concessions because it gets funky. Um, just that's what you want to do. You got to be a good steward of your capital, and you got to be a good steward of your time, and you need those exits, right? And I've seen you have those exits, Bobby, where we could sell this thing, we could
mhm.
Section 8 it, we
Mhm.
could rent it to,
Yeah, standard
sober
market.
living. We could,
Or sober
just
living. Yeah.
straight rent it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Bobby, final words, final wisdom for Peter here.
I will tell you, be careful who your friends are. The amount of naysayers that you're going to run into, it's like exponential. And always be open to opportunities. And the more open you are to opportunities, the more you're going to succeed. And I feel like that some of the 5 people will help support you and get you there. Because the amount of people that I can't even tell you, I could give you a very long list of people that told me that's not possible. You can't do that. There's no way you can create that rent. I mean, it was a lot. So just be ready for the no's, and surround yourself with the good people, and get ready to surpass like your expectations for yourself. It's there,
Love it.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Professor, you got any other questions for Bobby?
Man, there's so much. I'm going to watch this recording like 1,000 times. There's so much for me to go back and try to learn, but this is awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. This is incredibly helpful.
This is awesome. It's cool.
So Bobby, we finish up every show with some gratitude. So let's start with you. What are you grateful for, my friend?
Oh man, hands down, the connections that I've been making with the sober living, and the connections that I'm making with people, because of how many people know somebody that is going through it, and they feel like they can't help them, and so they're able to create this environment for other people, because maybe they lost a loved one, so obviously they're not able to help them anymore, or they're watching somebody go through it. So it's like it's like, I don't know. I'm trying not to tear up, but it's intense. Like, I will tell you, like, my job is no joke. It's intense. The stories of like people like losing their son. I mean, it's so intense. So I appreciate like being a part of that journey for people, for the investors, and for the people in the house too. It's just the whole damn thing's been incredible, and obviously Section 8 as well. But this journey too has just been, I'm just grateful to be a part of it. Yeah.
Peter.
Wow. Tough act to follow.
Yeah. The reason I didn't know is because it's your day.
Good Lord. Well,
Yeah.
that's very touching. And I think the thing that comes to mind for me as I'm listening is like, there's just so much that I don't know. And so an opportunity to start learning some things like, becoming more conscious of my incompetence is incredibly humbling. And I have a big heart, and I know that I can do a lot of good in the world. And sometimes I just don't know where to point that energy. And I'm extremely grateful for both of you, because I feel like I'm going to be able to do a lot in the future. Now, just seeing that door, even, I didn't even realize that it existed until today. And so, yeah, I'm grateful for an opportunity to be a white belt at something. I think that I'll continue to search out those opportunities and maintain that white belt, like that beginner's mind. And especially if there's some real good that can be done. Like, it's cool if, my wife and I have a good life. That's for sure a goal of mine, but it's not the only goal. And I feel like, to double down on what you said about like the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If I pick the right people, I know that all 5 of us will be able to do a lot of good. So yeah, again, thank you so much for sharing your insight and wisdom, and then just painting some new targets for me. That I think that's incredible. So yeah, you're the man.
Dude, you're awesome, Peter. Very
Love
cool.
it. Thanks, Peter. Hey, as always, the most important thing to me is relationships, and watching you do your thing, Bobby, over the many years that I've known you, and then of course watching Peter do his thing, and not only on the mats but now as a real estate investor. A lot of this, Peter and I talk a lot, and some of the wisdom that's come out, like, are you building your resume? Or are you building your eulogy? Just that concept. And what that reminds me of is just how incredibly fortunate I am to know the people that I do, right? And your relationships are everything. And you mentioned it, Bobby, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out the most with. And dare I say, I've got a few more than 5, and incredibly grateful for that, and grateful for your time, gentlemen. Thank you. Let's do this again.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right. See you guys.
All right. See you.